What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Got an action-packed show for you today. We're going to have Chip Brown from Horns 24/7 help us break down the Texas Longhorns. Danny West is going to hop on to talk a little bit about recruiting visitors for this Texas game, and we're going to break down the matchup as well. Talk a little bit about basketball, Arkansas's win over Troy last night, and we'll talk a little bit about the early signing period with baseball and, of course, basketball as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. So many amazing ways to watch and listen to the show, people. You can always tune in on Facebook. Be sure to follow the page on Facebook. Be one of 90,000 Razorback fans to do so if you haven't taken a moment to. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think we have almost 23,000 YouTube followers. So a lot of the people who watch the show regularly aren't even subscribed. So take a moment to do that and set it to where you're alerted with notifications anytime we upload new videos. Throw us a like, thumbs up, whatever it is on whatever platform. Throw us 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We'd love to have that from you. Leave a review. We haven't had a review since September 29th. It's been a little while. So leave a review. That certainly helps get our message out there, gets us out to more people, and we would certainly appreciate that. Anywhere you can think of to find your favorite podcast, we are there at Hawg Sports. Hawg Sports, by the way, is 30% off right now at HAWG Sports. It's an interesting time to sign up with basketball in full swing, recruiting, signing day, all that stuff right around the corner. Also, Arkansas just had signing day for all sports other than football. And, hey, I want to mention this real quick. Kevin Bohannon, our new lead baseball content creator and writer. Kevin Bohannon is we've needed baseball. As you guys know, I'm not the baseball expert. I mean, I enjoy Razorback baseball. I don't really watch any other baseball and haven't really much since I was a kid. So we have to outsource that a little bit. And we brought on Kevin Bohannon to handle our baseball recruiting and baseball, Razorback baseball coverage. He'll also do in-state types of stuff. Kevin has a long history doing baseball content and was also a coach. He was a football and baseball coach at North Pulaski in Jacksonville. He's not in coaching anymore, but he trains players. He's trained several former Razorbacks. He's been on 103.7 The Buzz with Drive Time Sports and has been with other media outlets around the state. So we brought him on to cover basically anything that happens with baseball, and he's already off to a great start. So happy to have Kevin Bohannon join the Hawg Sports team, and congrats to you. Because a lot of people want to do that job, and feel like we found a really nice fit there. Speaking of, trio of Arkansas baseball signees talk future in Fayetteville. He spoke to 3 of the current signees. You can read that article on Hawg Sports. This baseball recruiting class is ranked number 4 nationally by Perfect Game. Landon Schaefer, he wrote about him in the article. He wrote about Peyton Lee, wrote about Mark Brissy, and interviewed all of them. So they all got quotes in this article on Hawg Sports. It is a free article, by the way, so you can check it out. A lot of our stuff is VIP, but some of it is free as well. So 2 ways to enjoy our content over at Hawg Sports. Okay. Arkansas basketball, not the performance I think a lot of us thought they would get over Troy. I think what gets left out a little bit in this game, they won 65-49, is the defense. I mean, Arkansas had what did they have, 16 block shots in the game, 11 steals. So I have that backwards. 11 block shots, 16 steals. Okay, 16 is excessive. 11 is excessive. But 11 blocks, 16 steals. They only had 49 points. They shot 35% from the floor. Zvonimir Ivisic has to continue to shoot more threes, and that's something that I think it's interesting, by the way. Calipari was saying all preseason, he was joking around about Zvonimir and his three-point shooting. Should they allow him to shoot threes? They did that thing during the tip-off tour where they had the players try to make 63s in 5 minutes, and I think Ivisic had 40, and he was like, should I let him shoot threes? No, we're not going to let him shoot threes. Now he's saying he needs to shoot about 5 threes a game. They need to get Nelly obviously going. They're banged up right now, and he says they're going to start playing more zone defense to avoid foul trouble because they got 7 guys. Trevin Brazil, when I saw him go down with that ankle, I can remember the first time I really sprained my ankle. I was going up for a rebound, came down on it. I was in high school, came down on it and rolled it. And I mean, I don't know if I've I don't know if I've hurt like that before. That's about it. That's in the moment. That is extremely painful. The first time you do it, I've done it since then, and it doesn't hurt as bad. But the first time you do it, man, it really hurts. And I know, like he was walking off of it, and I just know, like for a little while, you're like, oh, I'm fine. You can walk on it, and then you like start realizing, I'm not okay. And next thing you know, it's a softball around your ankle. And the only way to get rid of that is elevation, ice. Rest, the Rice method, as we all know, compression. If you do not elevate that thing, it is never going to get better. I know that for a fact. It's been a while since I've rolled an ankle, but that's definitely what happened there. So hopefully it won't be too long on him, but they got like 7 guys now, 7 guys that they would feel comfortable putting out there. Need to get Jonas Adu back. Obviously, he's still not. I don't even know. Is he going to get healthy? Like, is Jonas is Nelly Davis, is his wrist going to get 100%? Because he's not the guy that we saw last year at Florida Atlantic either right now. So got to get healthy. I mean, they've got a stretch coming up. We can look at the schedule. Yeah, but John L. Davis had 7 points, 3 of 9 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3-point range. He has not found his stroke from 3-point range. He's going to find it at some point. Again, I don't know how much of that's the injury, all that kind of stuff. But he's a better 3-point shooter than what we're seeing right now, and Arkansas has got to have him be a better 3-point shooter. Adu Thera, I mean, like, dude had 19 points. He's playing as well as anybody. Right now. Next up for Arkansas, there's a bit of a break. They don't have a weekend game. Obviously, there's football. So the next game is Monday against Pacific in Fayetteville, Bud Walton Arena, 7 o'clock, SEC Network Plus. And then another gap between games, with it being against Little Rock and Bud Walton Arena. That's a Friday, 8 o'clock game. That should be a pretty good environment, Friday, November 22nd. And then it's Maryland Eastern Shore the following Monday. And then you – so there's a little bit of time here. There's a couple of weeks to get these guys back healthy. Illinois on November 28th, Miami on December 3rd, UT San Antonio December 7th, and then Michigan on December 10th. So that's a big stretch of games coming up. You'd like them to get, obviously, a lot more healthy leading into that. If your internet service isn't healthy, then you should probably check out our friends at Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go, healthy speeds of internet. That's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. I use the multi-gig service, which is like well over 1,000 megabits per second. I think it's like a couple thousand megabits per second, and it flies. And my bandwidth, I never have issues with any of that. They also have gigabit, which is what I had before, which I think is also fantastic. I probably would have been fine with it, but I do use, obviously, I got a lot going on internet-wise, so I need a lot. But I think that's probably great for most families out there. They offer several different tiers. You can reach out to them at 479-684-4900. And when you do that, you'll talk to somebody local who knows when you're asking what areas in Northwest Arkansas or in Oklahoma, what areas are you available in? They're going to know what you're talking about because they are local. They're not going to send you some call center. ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. If you use the promo code BIDDY1, you can get 1 month for free. I'll say it again. I've never unplugged the router modem, never once, because it has always worked. So if you're constantly unplugging your router modem, if you're getting in arguments with your family because the internet won't work or my TV show won't work or what's going on with my phone, Dad, end that. Make your life more peaceful. Sign up for Ozarks Go. All right. Oops. So, official availability report for Arkansas and Texas. You've got Selman Bridges out. That's new. So, I don't know what happened with Selman, if it was in practice and stuff. I don't believe he has played this season, or not a lot, not to where he burned the red shirt. Maybe he's out there on special teams. I need to check up on that. I need to see what freshmen have burned red shirts and stuff, but he is out. Anton Junkaj is out. I did not know that was coming. That's obviously an important one because that's depth on the defensive line. Now, maybe Charlie Collins is coming along a little bit more and you can rely on him in a backup role, but they do have obviously both starters, but Junkaj is their number 3 guy at defensive end. So we'll see how they manage that. You don't want to overdo it playing your defensive linemen and not have them healthy in the fourth quarter. Jalen Braxton is still out. We were hopeful that Jalen Braxton would be back. He has not played since week 2. He's not played since week 2. So that's disheartening. Anthony Switzer is out. Did not see that one coming. I don't know what happened with Anthony Switzer, but unfortunate that he's out as well. For Texas, you've got Derek Williams Jr., defensive back, C.J. Baxter, who's been out, running back. Christian Clark has been out, running back. Belton Gardner, I believe, has been out, running back. Maurice Blackwell, who is doubtful, and Colton Vasek, who is doubtful. So also, you've got Jaquinton Jackson looks good to go. He's listed as probable. Taylon Green listed as probable. Braylon Russell listed as questionable. That's where things stand right now with the Arkansas injury report. So it'd be nice if they get Braylon Russell back out there. So we're going to have Chip Brown join us here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call Chip or if he's going to hop on here, actually. I sent him the link, but I may need to call him directly because I think we might have gotten our wires crossed just a little bit because that was my fault. We had a little bit of issue getting started on the show today because the damn thing, for some reason, so we have a group StreamYard thing. I love Ozarks Go, by the way. I'll tell you that again. I'm not impressed with StreamYard. I'll just say it. And we use it as a group on 24/7 Sports, and we have different brand channels, and one of them is Bud Elliott's channel. And for some reason, every once in a while when I get on here, I cannot click off of Bud Elliott's channel, and it delays me. And so sometimes people are like, hey, you said you're going to start the show here. Well, it's StreamYard that screws me. So StreamYard, I'm not impressed. I went through all that troubleshooting stuff forever, and it turns out it just didn't like my browser. Like my internet speed was dropping and I run speed tests and everything's running and humming, and it turns out it's just the browser, and I had to end up choosing Firefox. Because Safari doesn't support it. Not blown away. In fact, I would consider using something else if I were you, if you're like in between. I just use it because we all pay for it together. So thumbs down. Thumbs down for StreamYard. All right, Chip has joined us now. For those of you who don't follow Chip, you can follow him at Chip Brown 24/7. He's the the Horns 24/7 columnist, and has been at it for a number of years and does a fantastic job there. Chip, how's it going, man?
What's going on, Trey?
Oh, not much. We're just we're taking a little bit of a look. We've been talking Razorback basketball and a little bit of baseball signing class and things like that, but it's time to take a deeper dive into this matchup with Texas. Chip, we've known each other for I can't even remember how long, a long time now, back to the Rivals days. I mean, it's been a number of years.
20 plus
years. Yeah. People I think sometimes fans might be disappointed or surprised to know that I run around with Texas people, but we usually have a pretty good time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know we had a good time in Nashville.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've looked at this game. What are your – first of all, let me get your so I've read the injury report, but that doesn't mean, a lot to Razorback fans. What can you tell us about the current injury report and maybe who's maybe also returning for this game that might have been out?
Yeah, so Texas is pretty healthy. They got Isaiah Bond back at receiver last week, and he had a huge impact on that game.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers appears to be over the oblique injury that really kind of just bogged down the offense in the middle of the season. He looked back to normal against Florida, throwing for 300 plus yards and 5 touchdowns. Defensively, they're in pretty good shape. I mean, they got Andrew Bakuba back at safety. So from an injury standpoint, they're pretty good. I mean, I think they're as healthy as they've been.
What happened with Texas in late October? I mean, obviously Georgia's a formidable opponent, but Vanderbilt made the score look a little bit closer. But I think a lot of us thought that Texas might blow Vanderbilt out, even though it's a much improved Vanderbilt team. What in your opinion happened during those couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, when Quinn came back against Oklahoma, he did not look comfortable at all, and he was missing throws, easy throws. They won 34-3, but he did not look good. So then they played Georgia, and Georgia, when Georgia's pissed off and ready to make a statement, they can disrupt everything. I mean, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, those dudes don't mess around. So they destroyed Texas, their short passing game. They played a lot of man. They just went for it, and they got it. They got there. The defense came through, turned, 3 interceptions from Carson Beck, and the offense could only turn one of them into a touchdown. And that was the pass interception that Jahdae Barron had on the controversial call where the bottles got thrown on the field and then it got reversed. I think the officials got it right, but it was really weird how they,
it was a little weird.
I mean, really weird. Like,
I don't think Chip, I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen them make a call on the field and then reverse it. I don't think
anyone's ever seen something like that, because it did appear that the officials were looking at the, video replay screen, and the guy who made the call was like, oops, hey, no flag there. But so they did score off of that, but it was not, Quinn Ewers was not right. And he, against Vanderbilt, tip pass interception right away, touchdown Vanderbilt. And so they're digging out of that hole, but they get up 21-7. They're in total control. And then penalty after penalty after penalty, a roughing, targeting ejection wipes out a 72-yard pick six. I mean, just like, the penalties have been a problem, and that didn't change even last week against Florida. 7 penalties, 70 yards. Like, they've got to get it cleaned up, because most of them are on the offensive side of the ball. And that's been the biggest thing. And the turnovers, but Quinn played turnover free last week. They did lose a fumble. Jarek Gibson, the freshman running back, had 2 fumbles, lost 1, and he's their downhill runner. And so we're all interested to see, okay, how many carries does he get against Arkansas? Because he's the one guy who can go get you, on 3rd and 3, he can get you 4. On 3rd and 5, he's probably going to get you 4. But it's, that's we're all kind of waiting to see, because the Texas offensive line, especially on the right side, has not been what it was last year. And it's, DJ Campbell at guard. They had Christian Jones at tackle last year. Now they have a new starter. He's a junior, but he's a new starter, Cam Williams, who's massive. But the chemistry between him and Campbell has not been as good. And so their outside zone running game is not where it should be. And Sarkisian gets really sensitive, as you heard yesterday on the SEC call, when you ask him about the running game and the issues with it. Because as I said, there is going to be a time where Texas is going to have to run it against 7 and 8 man boxes if they're trying to kill the clock late in a game.
Yeah, I don't understand your question, Chip.
Yeah, I don't. Next question. So it's interesting, because Sark has said all year, or we can throw it. So he's super confident in his ability to dial up, the short passing game as an extension of the running game. And like, Texas fans are frustrated with it. They're like, God, all these screens and sideways passes, but they got fast dudes who can break them. And they have, and they did last week. Fans are fans. They want the sexy deep ball touchdown passes that Arch Manning was throwing in his 2 starts, and Arch throws a beautiful deep ball. There's no question about it. But Sarkisian wants that experience that Quinn Ewers has had, the tough losses, the road losses, to all pay off. They've won 9 straight true road games with Quinn Ewers at quarterback. The experience is the reason, and Sarkisian trusts Quinn. So they have to get better, though, Trey. They have to. I've said Quinn is just now getting back to where he was at Michigan. That was game 2. We're in game 10. Like, they got to get better and better and better from here on out to live up to that number 3 ranking that the College Football Playoff Committee gave them.
Yeah. Well, it does look like the bye week was pretty good for him with getting Bond back and everything. And Quinn played pretty well in that one, obviously. I want to flip you over to the defense a little bit, Chip, because this is an interesting look to me. Like Texas was really good in the Big 12 last year. Obviously, SEC is a different animal. But when you look at their run defense, and maybe this was just part of the conference and the teams they were playing, but they were giving up 82.4 yards per game on the ground. But they were near the bottom in pass defense, 254.4 yards per game. Now you flip it to this year, they're still pretty good against the run, middle of the pack in the SEC. And again, that may be due to the opponent that they play and their style. But their efficiency on pass defense is 89.4. And that is a number that I don't think I have ever seen. They're allowing 135.3 yards per game. But I don't think I've ever seen a defense in the SEC with an 89.4 efficiency rating. And I think, like, I don't know if I've ever seen one under 100.
Yeah, this this is a weird little story, but I think it matters. So they bring in Andrew Makuba from Clemson. Michael Taft is a former walk-on. He starts at safety. Makuba starts at the other safety spot. And then they have Jahdae Barron, who's the number 1 rated corner in college football, according to Pro Football Focus. These 3 guys trained together. They all went to different high schools. They all trained together under a guy named Bam Blake, who's a defensive back trainer in Austin. And Makuba and Barron had scholarship offers galore. Taft didn't have any. And Taft would work the hardest of everyone in their group. And there were other guys that went on to Houston. It was a big group of guys. They all went off to college, played college ball. Taft never got a scholarship offer. Barron and Makuba, when they would turn down schools, they'd say, hey, you should look at this guy, Taft. He still didn't get any offers. So he walks on at Texas. He's on the team in 21, but he wasn't on the travel squad because he was a walk-on. So he didn't get to go to Arkansas when they got their heads handed to him. But the kid has gotten better and better and better. He works his ass off. And this bond that they have, Makuba, Taft, and Barron, their communication is so good in the back end. They just don't give up the big play. Like last year, the communication was the reason they were giving up big plays. Now the communication is the reason they're the number 1 pass defense. And they all work together. It's funny because I remember watching Michigan's defense last year and how well they communicated. And that's what you're seeing now from Texas. And so it's been impressive. It has been impressive. Jahdae Barron is playing out of his mind. We all thought Manny Muhammad was going to be the star, not star because that's a different position, but he would be the special corner. And it's been Barron. I mean, Barron he's playing at a Thorpe level. Everyone's talking about Travis Hunter. Okay, give Travis Hunter the Heisman, but Jahdae Barron's a better corner than Travis Hunter. So that's where this defense has made such a big jump.
We'll get you out of here with this, Chip. How do you see this one playing out Saturday?
I think it's, if you're going to get to Texas, you've got to get them in the first quarter. Quinn Ewers has played in 7 games. He's had 2 games with no turnovers. The other 5, he's turned it over in the first quarter. So you got to get him early, get some doubt into his mind, and then capitalize. Then you have to have a good day at the office, offense, defense, special teams, because this Texas defense is going to keep Texas in every game. They've been averaging 3 turnovers per game the last 4. It's, if Quinn is on, if Quinn plays like he did against Florida, and again, he was shaky on the second possession of that game. He almost threw an interception on 2nd down. Then he ran for 9 yards on 3rd down, and they went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 24, and they made it. And then it was out the gate. But if Quinn gets into a rhythm, their offense can really go. They had 16 explosive plays last week. So they were the most explosive offense through the first 5 games of the year. And when they're on, that's who they are. So you got to get to them early. If they get into rhythm, it can be a long day. I think it's close for a half, but I think Texas pulls away in the second half, maybe, 24-10.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Well, we all hate you, Chip, and everything Texas stands for. So, but we think you did a great job. So thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Well, hey, we'll see you soon. You're coming up Saturday, right?
Yes, sir. I'll
Okay,
see you
brother.
Saturday.
I'll see you then. All right. Thanks, Chip.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That's Chip Brown. You can follow him at Chip Brown 24/7. Does a great job over there covering the Longhorns. And we certainly appreciate him coming on the show today. We're going to hop over to Danny West now. Danny, if you're ready to go.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing, Danny?
I'm pretty good, man. Sorry I couldn't join you on video today. I'm sure
that's all right. We got the clean, crisp audio. I was thinking about how to exit with Chip there, and I was just like,
what do I do?
We all hate you and everything that Texas stands for.
Yep. See you Saturday.
Now, I've known Chip for a number of years,
dude,
and he's a newsbreaker and does a really great job. Yeah,
I've got nothing but respect for that guy. Yeah, I don't know him from anybody. I don't think I've even met Chip, but I mean,
you might have met him in Nashville
that
year that you came there.
Yep.
But yeah, I've always run around with Chip, and I mean, it's interesting because people who do this job, it's hard to explain the lifestyle and how things work, and so when we get together, it's just really nice to be able to talk to somebody else who understands.
Yeah, man, dude,
everything you go through.
That's absolutely right. I got a call from our buddy Blake, who covers Florida down there for the 24/7 site the other day, and we were kind of talking about the same thing. He gets it because he lives it every day, and nobody wants to hear us talk about this, but that's a great point.
Well, we don't have a wealth of coworkers who do the same thing,
That's right.
So,
yeah,
Danny, obviously this is an 11 o'clock game, and so and by the way, we're just keeping it on Danny's video because he's got a sick daughter, and but we are going to have Danny on video more, but I have to keep the graphic up like this to have the audio. So apologize for anybody who wants to.
The ladies don't mind. They're all right with it.
So Danny, it's an 11 o'clock game, and obviously we know that's a challenge for recruits coming from far distances, but what does it look like as far as a recruiting weekend?
Pretty good. Now they're all unofficial. I haven't heard of any officials so far, Trey, but pretty good, strong 11 a.m. kickoff visit list, in my opinion. We're going to jump in here real quick, and I'll just kind of give you a break, but I want to talk about maybe 5 or 6 guys here that are really, really important. Now, I know everybody's kind of sick of recruiting. You're frustrated, NIL and all this stuff. What's going to happen with the coach? I'm telling you, it's time to pay attention to some of these 2026s. And Duquesne Prevost, I hope I'm saying that right, Trey. I always call him Prevost or DP in messages, but he's a 2026 composite 4-star wide receiver out of Texarkana. And on November 24th, that's a Sunday, that's coming up in 10 days, he's going to be picking. Now, again, he's a 2026, so not for this class, but making a super early commitment. And he's choosing between Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Penn State on the 24th. So you're getting him on campus this weekend. And he did tell me this morning, I asked him, hey, is this the final visit you're going to take before that 24th? And he said, no, I will be taking one again next weekend. I can only assume, he didn't tell me which one he's taking next week. I can only assume it's probably that Oklahoma game, maybe in Norman against Alabama coming in there. So I don't know yet. But, man, I know Ronnie Fouch has done a really good job with this one. And on Sunday the 24th, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Arkansas was the pick. Now, that's just a start. They've got a kid coming in here, Kelshawn Johnson, for this current year's class, 2025, 4-star wide receiver, also out of Texas, Hitchcock, Texas, and he's committed to Texas A&M. We've talked about him at length on here a few times, Trey, but to try and catch everybody up, really important recruit because he visited in June, took an official visit in Fayetteville in June, also took one to Texas A&M and several other big-time schools, and he picked A&M the following month. But, man, they've kept the door open. Again, Ronnie Fouch keeping the door open, and there's still optimism with less than 3 weeks to go now before signing day. We're under the 3-week mark, Trey, and the door is still cracked here. So he's coming back for an unofficial visit this weekend, something to keep an eye on there down the final stretch. This is a guy who could raise your current ranking, team ranking, 5 or 6 spots right now if you start playing with the class calculator, which you can on HawgSports. It's a lot of fun to figure out some of these numbers, but keep an eye on that name, Kelshawn Johnson. There's very little, I'm not going to say very, very few things to keep an eye on down the final stretch here, but he would probably be the biggest. And I don't mind telling you, Trey, I think he is their top target left at wide receiver right now. They really, really want this dude, in my opinion.
Danny West. Oh, sorry. I thought you were pausing, Danny. Go ahead.
Oh, no, your break continues, buddy. You got Ja'Cory Smith coming from Little Rock Parkview, obviously a loaded Parkview team there in Little Rock. And he's a 2026 4-star linebacker. He's 6'1", 190, plays that middle linebacker spot for Coach Bolding there. But I don't know what they might do with him at the next level. Is he a hybrid guy, an outside guy? Does he move back and in secondary? What does he do? All I know is he's really good. He's a 4-star for a reason, number 200 in the country next year, and he's got offers from, everybody except the Chiefs at this point, really early. And yet another Parkview standout there. You got Colton Yarborough coming back. I'll run through some of these a little faster. Obviously, Colton, 2026, 4 stars, already committed to Arkansas. Grayson Wilson back again this weekend, 2025 quarterback. Been nursing an injury there. I'm a little hesitant to talk too much about details on injuries, but I think he's going to be okay here pretty soon, and we hope so. A lot of kids out of Oklahoma coming in this weekend. Want to give a shout out to Sean Cooper over there. He's always good to us, keeping us updated with everybody that he himself puts in a car and brings to all these schools. You gotta appreciate guys like that. We've seen it here in Arkansas with Coach B-Mop, and we just appreciate guys that do that. So he's bringing back another good crew this weekend. Chris Grimaldo is a 2028 athlete that Arkansas has already offered. Quincy Shelton, Kenny Golston, his brother King Golston will be here. They think he might be a future 4-star in the 2027 class. Dom Corsi is a 2028 jumbo athlete. So here we are in November of 2024, Trey, and already talking about a bunch of 27s and 28s.
Danny West joining us again. You can follow Danny at Danny West 24/7. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst, but does so much more than that. Also helps us with football and has been with us for a really long time. So if you want to read most of Danny's stuff, you need a VIP subscription, and HawgSports is 30% off right now at HAWGsports.com. That breaks down to $627 a month. Billed at just $75.18 for the year. That is a discount of $44.22. Danny, when is National Signing Day for football, the early period?
December 4th is when this thing kicks off. So yesterday would have been 3 weeks from yesterday.
I find it really interesting, the timing of that. When was it last year?
Somewhere around the 20th, somewhere in there. I could go back and look real quick. But
I just find it
in the 18th to 20th range.
I just think it's super interesting. They found a way to make it even more difficult to have a coaching change because I mean, this is before the SEC championship game, Danny.
That's right. It was
the SEC championship game is on December 7th. So like right when the season ends, right when the regular season ends, Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is what, the 30th. So 4 days. So a lot of, obviously that's a lot of when coaches are fired. There was an interesting comment on the last video. Danny said, I was reporting from a very, very credible source that as long as something crazy doesn't happen, like losing to Louisiana Tech or something, which Louisiana Tech has lost like 3 or 4 overtime games. They're not that bad as the record says. But as long as something crazy doesn't happen, then Sam Pittman will be back next year. All the rumors of him retiring because of the hip or health issues or, all this stuff, he's ready to retire and all that stuff, all that's not true. They are planning to run it back with Sam Pittman next year. And people take that information as like me sending a message that people need to support or, that kind of stuff. And I'm just reporting the news. But this guy was like, sad to see the deep state got to Trey Biddy. Do you remember like when Chad Morris was hired and I was like, it's looking like it's going to be Chad Morris, like, reporting on all this stuff. And everybody's like, why are you trying to shove Chad Morris down our throat, Trey? Like, I'm just reporting the news here. But I found that quite comical that the deep state had gotten to me and I'm like pushing some narrative now when everybody has every right.
A mile away.
What, Danny?
I saw it coming a mile away. I knew you were headed down that path.
Right, exactly. They got me. But it's just interesting to me that, reporting the news and everybody takes it as me promoting something in some kind of way. And I'm not telling people they shouldn't be upset or frustrated. And, people, I also get amazed with, and I think most Razorback fans get it when I talk about the NIL situation, like, you're not getting a great coach in here without NIL stuff in order. And people point to John Calipari. That's a unique situation, obviously, with John Tyson. But that's the truth. Like, Arkansas is not going to win games, and we can say coaching is a problem or it's not a problem. And a lot of people think it is a problem, but that doesn't mean you dismiss the actual problem going on, or an actual problem, not the problem, because there's a lot of room under the bus, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can fit a lot under there. But it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. It can be coaching. It could be talent, culture, all kinds of things can be
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons for losses and things not going the way people want. But the one thing that can be controlled, and again, it sucks to ask people, but is funding NIL. I mean, it's right there, but it sucks to tell. I always have to be careful because I don't want to tell people like, hey, you need to be doing this. Because that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this is the climate that we're in, and this is what successful
teams a lot of people
are doing. Yeah,
there's a lot of people doing it. I'm with you on that. I don't spend other people's money. I'm like a lot of you, man. I turned on the game last night trying to, hit up some recruits. Had the basketball game on. It disappoints me, man, to see Bud Walton like that. But I get it, and I'm not in position to go and pick up everybody from every corner of the state and drive them to Fayetteville and then drive them back on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, so I get it. But if you've got a complaint that you threw out there in terms of fans kind of misinterpreting what you say, I'd like to throw one out real quick. A lot of times, Trey, what I hear is, why are you pushing these recruits down our throat like they're the greatest thing ever? I didn't use any exclamation points when I wrote the story.
Right.
I said he's a 3-star, whatever. I just told you his offers. I'm just telling you who they are. It's not always, Danny West thinks this guy. No, I just wrote the commitment story.
People get frustrated. I get it. I mean, I'm right there. Like, I get frustrated with things. I have a high standard for people. Sometimes that's not fair. But
it's an easy time, I think, in society to blame the media for everything because there's a lot of bad apples, obviously. But
yes,
not everybody. I mean, we're just kind of trying to do our job here, trying to be honest with you.
I do get tired of getting looped in with, you're just Arkansas media, which, there's a lot of great guys in Arkansas media.
Absolutely.
But there's a narrative that like I'm out there as a, trying to get, trying to get Sam Pittman, people to think a certain way about Sam Pittman or something because my credentials are going to get lost. Like, which is absolutely absurd.
Had a guy tell me the other day I should be yelling at Sam Pittman, "Where are the recruits?" How do you think that would go? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you another one, Danny. Right, like, another one, and I usually have us going back and forth, but if I take your graphic off the screen, then it's not going to it's not. Well, you're just black. You got a black screen. I mean, so maybe I could do it that way. So that wouldn't be a problem. But I get a lot of people like, why aren't you like hammering Sam Pittman, all this stuff? And, I asked him last year if he was worried about his job security because I thought last year it was a pertinent question after that Auburn game. Are you worried about your, position as head coach? And, I asked him some other questions, I think after the Missouri game that were, pretty pointed, that, he may not have liked. But
no, he didn't
this year, I know what's at stake. He knows what's at stake. And I don't know that there's any benefit to me And Yurachek knows what's at stake. Fans know what's at stake. I don't think there's any benefit in me constantly hammering him every single week about his job security when, first of all, I know that his job is safe as long as he beats Louisiana Tech, and that may not be the standard that people want, and I'm not saying it is, but everybody knows what is at stake here,
Yeah,
for Sam Pittman.
No secrets and the final few weeks here.
They got to, like, if everything that I've reported is true, Danny, and he is retained as head coach, which again I have no reason to think that that's not true. They don't have any choice but to do something next year. Like, there's like, it's in the modern era of college football, it's pushing it right now, retaining Sam Pittman, like based on standards you see around, other places. But I get what they're thinking also with the revenue sharing model that's coming up and where your money needs to go as a program and that early signing day. I mean, Arkansas will suck next year. Like, you may think they suck now or something if you're a fan, at 6 wins. They're going to suck
long ago. Yeah.
Because, like, you don't have time to put a roster together. What would make things easier if they maybe bump that signing day out a little bit and change the transfer portal rules, which there was some talk about moving transfer portal to
signing day out which way?
A little bit farther out, like back to December 20th,
back to where
it was.
I got
but also because, like, you remember, like, Brett Bielema's first class, Danny, was a hell of a class. You have no chance of bringing in like an Alex Collins, Denver Kirkland, Dan Skipper, all those guys that they brought in that first class. Your first class is probably going to stink, and you just got to hope you have a really strong in-state class that's really loyal to the Razorbacks, which is, that doesn't happen as much anymore either. But it's hard to fire a coach now.
It's almost impossible, man. 4 days is what you're talking about there.
4 days for a recruiting class and the transfer portal also. I mean, you got to have a big transfer class this day and age to field a good team. You look at Arkansas's roster right now. I mean, a lot of the key players are transfers, and they've just made it very difficult to make coaching changes, and coaching changes need to happen. I mean, you, like, fans, like, in this day and age, like with the news cycle moving so fast, like, you can you need to either win or you got to move on in the eyes of fans. But I don't think there's any question for Pittman, no matter what happens with this cycle or anything. If they don't do something pretty significant next year, then that's probably going to be it. And I think that they have a better chance at being good next year with Pittman than they don't. Now, you can argue long term, obviously, is that the case? But yeah, look at Florida too. Florida's kind of gone the same way. Florida, I look at Florida and I say they're never going to be a great team with Billy Napier, I don't think. But the climate that they're in, they're looking at the revenue sharing and, the recruiting calendar and all that stuff, and I guess they think they're better off. So
the recruiting calendar is such people don't talk about it enough, in my opinion. Of course, I see everything through a recruiting lens. Yeah. But man, I'm with you on that. You see it at Florida. Kind of makes you wonder if that's why the AD comes out mid-season and says, "Hey, he's coming where he's good." Yeah. So
if this were 2019 or something, Danny, I don't think
he'd have been gone. He'd have been fired Saturday. Oh, I'm talking about Florida still, but
yeah. Well, I'm talking about Pittman might have been gone after last year.
Yeah.
If this were 2019. I think that people are just like looking at the finances a little bit differently than they used to, because it used to all go to the university, and now there's a big chunk that's going to go to players and also the demand on NIL. So I think they're kind of cautious about it.
Here's what you don't think of though, with that initial first class and only having a few days to put one together. It's impossible, right? First of all, you've got to, like you said, if you've got an in-state core that will hold with you. Arkansas doesn't have that right now. Shoot, they're leaving the state. So what that requires you to do, it forces you to go all transfers. That's your only shot. And what's that going to do? That's going to catch up with you 2-3 years from now when everybody else has a class of, 3 and 4 year guys. So it's kind of a double-edged deal with moving this thing up. Now, I do appreciate how it kind of separates that overlap that we've seen, especially last year, buddy. That almost killed me. Just being honest with you, that sucked. And, 2 years ago, when you're talking about 45 days and 15 more in the spring, man, you got to narrow that down. They don't need that much time to figure this out. Most of them know where they want to go right now.
Yeah.
And most of it, some of it's probably already been transactions.
There's no question. There's no question.
That I do appreciate that they got rid of that overlap, but you're absolutely right. It's made it almost impossible to fire a coach after the season. I think anything you do nowadays, you got to see it early, maybe after 4 games in late September.
You got to make a mid-season firing.
So, hey, he's got to go. We got a job open. You start interviewing. That's the only way you can. Or you got a coordinator that you pass it on to, and somebody, hypothetically steps away, and that could work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ideal scenario in this day and age in college football, is that your coach has success and you pass it on to a coordinator. That's what Michigan did. Oklahoma did that from Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley. That's been a while ago, obviously, but
even then, you need to do that after the February signing day, really, to get through transfer season.
But nobody wants to keep coordinators. I mean, Bobby Petrino may be an exception, but nobody wants to keep the coordinator of a team that went 6-6 or 4-8. They want a fresh start, and you just kind of have to accept that the next year is probably going to be pretty rough. I would like to see them bump that, maybe the transfer portal to spring only.
Oh man, tell me about it. I would love it.
Like if you can transfer, but if you want to do it, you got to do it in the spring. Like you don't get. Guess what? You don't get to have everything. You don't get to have everything. That's a good message for a lot of people out there.
A lot of people, and that's what a lot of people need to hear. That's a fact. Even then, and we're getting lengthy here, Trey. But even then, I mean, the downside of that is they're not going to come in and go through winter conditioning, and to me, that's the most important part of the off season. Would you agree that that's when you kind of build everything together.
Danny, so I'm seeing if we've checked off everything here. We've called out the fans.
You want to talk politics real quick?
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about where they need to spend their money.
Yeah.
We told them that Pittman's going to be back, and they're going to. A lot of people interpret that's like us throwing our endorsement behind that. And we've told people they don't get to have everything.
Yeah, but
is there anything else we could get this video more downvoted?
Here's the saving grace. You told Chip Brown we hate Texas. That's all that matters.
That's right.
That's all that matters. No, I think we got it covered.
I've checked off several things. Is there anything else? Tell people where they belong, where they should be, where they should.
You're like Tony Hinchcliffe up here.
All right, Danny. Well, I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
All right, talk to you later. All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Appreciate him joining us on today's show. People don't interpret that the wrong way. I mean, again, with the NIL stuff, I'm just telling you like what the climate is. I'm not telling you that you should be doing this or you're wrong for doing this, because, again, I know what it costs to support the Razorbacks, and I know how frustrating it can be. I've lived in this state for over 40 years myself. I went to the University of Arkansas. I grew up in a lot of ways like most of you out there did. I understand it. I just know that the path for Arkansas to transform things is, and maybe it is a coaching change at some point. I'm just telling you also, that ain't happening this year. It's not happening. That's not me giving some ringing endorsement or anything like that. You guys know I like Sam Pittman. A lot of you guys do like Sam Pittman. The path for Arkansas to have success next year, I think it's just looking at next year, is keeping Sam Pittman. Because I know what the turnover looks like with this offseason, with how they have crammed everything in. College football is the worst run system in all of sports. The way and part of that's because we're centered around an academic calendar, like just what it is. This is college football. But cramming that early signing period when they first started doing it in December, and now they've moved it up even farther. I mean, we're talking from December 20th to December 4th. The SEC championship game hasn't even been played, and we're having signing day and stuff. That's wild to me. The transfer portal and the importance of that now. Also, kids want to do it at midterm. They want to be able to go through spring football, all that stuff. I say tough. You know what? Tough. Do it in the spring. If you want to transfer, you got to do it in the spring. I think that would be a big help to fixing things with this calendar, because as we said, like it's difficult to have change now. Like it's hard to have change because not only do you suck, but you're going to suck next year, and you're going to suck down the road because when you're judged on your team in 4 years, a lot of it's going to be based off this crappy recruiting class that you put together. It just is. Like you look at Sam Pittman's first class, there were like 2 guys on the roster last year, Deshad Stewart and Dominic Johnson, off that first recruiting class, guys that should be like redshirt juniors, like, seniors and redshirt juniors. You had 2. And that was years ago. Now it's more crammed together. So, yes, I get frustrated when fans misinterpret what I say. That's going to happen. I get it. But all I'm telling you is what I've been told. I'm not trying to tell people how to spend their money on NIL. I'm just telling you the landscape of things. And what else did we say? I don't think we said anything else awful. We do hate Texas, though. All right, everybody. I'm interested to see what the comments are after that little segment. Sam Pittman has a golden pass somehow. It's not somehow, Nelly. So Nelly says he's got a golden pass somehow. The somehow is the environment that we're in. It's the same golden pass that Billy Napier has at Florida, because otherwise Billy Napier is fired. No question about it. And if it's 2019, Napier's done. Okay, no question about it. Florida just looking at the revenue sharing model, where they're going to spend their money. Are they going to spend it with a big buyout with a coach? Are they going to, all this stuff? What does the future of the recruiting class looks like? They've got DJ Lagway on board. Like what's his situation if they fire the coach? All those kinds of things, Appreciate you, Sam Kerr. Let's just say we're all right. We're okay. We try to do a good job. I always like what Danny West says. It's not hard work. We just work hard at it. All right. Not too much hate. One question, Trey, is Sam back next season? Asked Landon Montgomery. Yes. Sam, as long as they beat – let's look at Louisiana Tech real quick, because, guys, people are going to expect an ass-kicking on Louisiana Tech. Let's look at their football schedule real quick. It's going to surprise you. All right. So La Tech is 3-6 this year. Okay. They just lost to Jacksonville State, which, by the way, is won 6 in a row, 5 or 6 in a row. Jacksonville State's pretty good. They lost some close early games, and then they just rattle them off for this level, for the G5. Okay. They lost to them 44-37 in overtime last week. They lost to Sam Houston 9-3. They lost to UTEP. No, they beat UTEP. Excuse me. They beat UTEP 14-10. They lost to New Mexico State in double overtime, 33-30. They beat Middle Tennessee State convincingly. They lost to FIU 10-7. You see what I'm getting to here? There's a lot of close losses. They lost to Tulsa in overtime, 23-20. They lost to NC State, the only other Power 5 team that they faced, 30-20. And they beat Nichols 25-17. So, every loss that they have had has been close. And they have 3 losses in overtime. And people are going to be expecting Arkansas to come in there and just whip the crap out of them. And that might not happen. And that's going to leave people a little more disgruntled, because Arkansas is going to rest people. They're going to take care of their injured players. That they're not probably going to put every single thing that they have into it, because that Missouri game looms large. Now, I'm not predicting a Texas win. I don't think most people would. Some people will. Some people are eternal optimists. I think you're crazy if you predict Arkansas to beat Texas, but I also think it's crazy to think that it can't happen at the same time. That's a paradox. So, yes, it can happen. We've seen it happen. The 23 times that Arkansas has beaten Texas in the past, Texas generally, most of the time, has had a better team or a better roster. So, keep that in mind. But Arkansas can win. It is in Fayetteville. I just don't think that they are going to. I think that Saracen, last I looked, had them 13.5-point favorites. It started off at 18. So anyway, they can, but It'd be crazy to predict them. That Louisiana Tech game is interesting to me because you can see a lot of disgruntled people. I don't think that Missouri presents the same challenge as Texas does. Missouri has gotten their butts kicked by the better teams. If Arkansas can, even if they lose to Texas, if they beat Louisiana Tech and they beat Missouri, and they have 7 regular season wins with a chance to win 8 in a bowl game, I don't see how anybody can look at that and say that they shouldn't keep Sam Pittman at that point. We live in the moment. We live week to week in football, and it's so much different in this projecting a 6-6 that'll save him, 7 wins that'll save him, versus when you're in the moment, living it, and everything feels unforgivable. Or how could they do this? They had it. How could they do this? This is coaching. When you're living it, it feels so much different. But if we step back and look at this, and we said starting at the beginning of the season, if we said Arkansas wins 7 games after winning 4 games next year or last year, you absolutely have to keep Sam Pittman in that, especially when you consider the historical context of Arkansas football. The thing of it is, though, I don't care next year. There's no just getting by next year. There just can't be. He has got to have a season next year. He's got to. We know how toxic it can get. So, to me, the best thing for Arkansas football is for them to find a way, obviously beat Louisiana Tech, but find a way to get that 7th win in the regular season. I think that would change a lot of people's feelings about the program. I think it would curb a lot of potential toxicity, which we see in the offseason as well. Okay. Nellie Davis for 3 says, can't wait to be 4-8 next year, and Hunter is wondering why. Well, I don't believe you can't wait for that. I think you're gonna pull for them. But if they're 4-8 next year, that's not good for Sam, and I don't think that's good for Hunter either. I hope everybody understands the stuff that I'm saying here, because I'm right there with you. I have the same emotions as you guys do when it comes to this football program in this state and stuff. And I know it's frustrating, the climate with NIL and what's being asked of people to donate to NIL, and the idea that you're settling and you're told to be happy that Arkansas is 6-6. They're not 6-6 yet; they're 5-4. But if they are 6-6, and you're told to be happy with it, and hey, I get all of that stuff. Trust me, I do. I'm just trying to lay it out. So thanks to Danny West for hopping on with us. Really appreciate him. And, of course, Chip Brown, as much as we dislike him and everything he stands for. I do like Chip. He's a good guy. But appreciate all of you guys for watching, for tuning in to the show today. I hope it wasn't too much. Sign up at Ozarks Go if you haven't done so already. We'd really appreciate that. Ozarks Go does a great job. They're not going to let you down. All right, everybody. Appreciate you. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.